Welcome to my quick and easy video on how to get set up with remote learning. My blog and teaching tips are located at mrssroom.com, so if you need any additional support, feel free to message me there or just visit and see what tips I come up with every week. My initial setup. So as you can see from the picture, I've got 3 monitors. 2 is all you really need, and a monitor and an iPad works just fine as well. I use 3 monitors because I use that every day. I have not so awesome eyes, but it also keeps my sanity when we're doing remote learning. For example, the left monitor is going to be used for what the kids see. So I would throw up my Google Slides shows there, my Google Slideshows, sorry. And I would annotate right on them. So as soon as I'm actually making a note, if I would write it on the board, I would actually write it right on the Google slide. So if we're doing fractions and I'm talking about how to convert a fraction to a decimal, I would actually write the tip right on that Google slide and the kids can see it there. It also saves it for them so that they can see it later, which for some kids it's great to go back and review those things. That middle monitor is where I keep my Google Meet open. This is where I see all the kids every day. It's really nice to see their faces all day. And this is where it's easy to see if they've got their mic turned off, they've got their video turned off, or even if they're presenting, what are they showing me? On the right, and this is one that's not needed, but on the right is where I keep a couple of tabs open. So I use Dojo for classroom management, and I also keep my email open, and I would keep Google Classroom open. So if there's something on there that I need to monitor or I need to fix, it's right there for me to do so. But I could also, if you don't have a third monitor, it's easy to do this in another tab on your screen, and that's just fine. My next tip, these are just kind of random tips that I found. One way is to move throughout the day. I have the under desk bike right here. I like biking. But I've seen a lot of teachers in different Facebook groups hack these walk pads and turn them into a desk, which is really cool. You can't tell that you're actually moving. My students have no idea that I have a bike unless I tell them. And I also have a really good desk chair. So if you're not going to move all day, I do suggest a really good desk chair. But I also really do suggest the movement breaks, and it's also nice for the kids. My kids are also doing remote learning, and they're loving it, but their teacher does stop the class randomly and just do some movement breaks, and it's nice. It's good for the kids. If you do find you're getting headaches at the beginning of the day, or you know you had them last year during remote learning, I do suggest the light blocking glasses. You can get them cheap on Amazon, or if you've got prescription glasses and you need new ones, they can add that to your prescription. The other thing is to drink lots of water. Sounds like a weird tip for remote learning, but I find that I'm talking more and maybe a little bit more forcefully, and so my voice gets really tired. So it's nice to stay hydrated, and it really does help. There are going to be freezes, so designate a responsible student to continue when your computer freezes. Mine always freezes for me. And teach your students to use the chat button on the side of Meet so that when you can give instructions for when it really freezes. By the older grades, and junior grades are typically where I teach, they can use the chat function, and if you give them an instruction, they can go do it. Little ones, it's nice to have somebody there, like a student that you know is responsible, that you can kind of designate to do those things. I suggest using the Google Calendar tool to set up the Meet link for every day. That way parents and kids know where to go to find the link, no more messaging it and posting it every day, and teach older kids to use the calendar tool. It's really great to teach that because online learning is so different than in the class in the sense that kids have to be really independent. I know with my youngest, actually, we struggled with that this year, and she really struggled with the fact that she had to do things on her own, and she was expected to meet these timelines. So teaching them to use Google Calendar, if you're using Google Classroom, is nice because it shows them every assignment that they've got that week. Also really nice if you do a quick walkthrough video with the kids and record it or on your own, and then post it so that parents can see, oh, my kid told me he had no assignments, but I logged into his calendar and look at that, he's got 10 assignments due this week. So it's really nice to be able to teach them to use that. It's a visual tool. But if you're using it for the Google Meet link, it actually shows up in their calendar every day. So when you schedule it as a calendar item, they don't have to go looking for the link. You don't have to post it in Classroom. It's there, and it's there every day. They just have to click on it. So if you can teach them that in the first week, then if online learning is extended, God forbid, you will be able to use it a lot easier with the kids, and it's not going to be such a huge hassle. Low-tech tools. So you're going to tell me that you're not a techie teacher, and that's okay. A whiteboard from the dollar store, holding it up to your camera, that works fine. A whiteboard or large blank paper behind you also works awesome. Grab some chart paper from the school if you can get in. Or just pick up a really large piece of paper at home if you've got one. A document camera to take pictures of the actual paper you're using works really well. I have one at school, I don't have one at home because I find I can do everything I need to on Google Slides. Group work. So if you are used to doing group work, you can still do it online. You need to use breakout rooms. Set them up ahead is my tip. And there's a million videos to teach how to do this. I like the one I've linked there, and I'll link it below in YouTube. For handouts, find a handout online. MathAids is easy if you're going for like generic practice, like if you're doing addition and subtraction or multiplication and division. If you print it to a PDF and then teach your kids to write directly on the PDF using programs like Kami, Google Read and Write, or PDF Editor, depending on what they have at home. My kids at home have a PDF editor, but my youngest does not, so we use Kami. Or copy and paste the whole information into a Google Slide and then have them hand that in. I prefer Google Slides because then I can manipulate it and edit it. Math schedule. So in my math period, I get 60 minutes. I think all boards are similar in Ontario, but 10 to 15 minutes of that is spent doing math warm-ups. So I have bell ringers that I do. That's what we spend that 10 to 15 minutes on. It's where we have our math talks. It's where we do number sense, where we're reviewing how to break down numbers. And then we move on to the review of the nightly lesson. Now, depending on how you're running your math class, if I was doing the full lesson, I would do 10 to 20 minutes here of a math lesson. However, what I run is called a flipped math classroom. So I post a video teaching a new concept, and that's their homework. That's their only homework. Then, after they've watched that video, they can make notes. I require notes in school, but I'm not as picky on them in remote schooling. And then they come to class ready to learn. So I don't have to really do anything other than maybe review last night's topic. Then they spend the remainder of the time practicing the skills or doing project-based learning. So for example, we do a big one on Black Friday where we calculate the cost of going Black Friday shopping. So these are my bell ringers. This is what I use, and I use it really in my classroom all the time, but I really love it when we're remote learning because it allows me to cover every strand, but it's also something to do at the beginning of the math class to get everybody logged on, to get everybody doing something. And let's be honest, I have 2 kids at home that are also remote learning. If I need to help them while my students are doing this, I can then kind of switch into mom mode and help them with whatever tech support they need. This is an example of a Google slide that I use. So this is one of my grade 6 ones. If you are using Google Slides and the pieces can be moved, be very cautious with this, especially if you're doing something like angles where you want them to measure precisely. What you probably want to do is actually make your slides in PowerPoint, save them as an image, and if you go to File, Save As, you can choose to save as a JPEG. If you need a tutorial video on that, I can do that. This prevents kids from mucking with your work because then you insert it as a background on Google Slides. I know it sounds complicated, but once you've done it once or twice, it's really not. But it can also help you ensure that they can't tell you that their slide is blank because most of them don't know that that's the background, so then they don't change it, and then you end up making sure that they can do their work. For these kind of slides, so I inserted some of the pictures as a background. So like these are all inserted as a background so that kids can't move them. However, I wanted these to be movable. It's a mean question. I need them to rearrange them. To do that, I inserted them as an image, or as a shape, I'm sorry. And to insert something as a shape, you're just going to go to File and Insert, or there's a little icon in Google Slides, and that will show you how to insert a shape. Kids can stretch these so they might not look the same after a while. The first week, I would spend time teaching how to do Control-Z. How can we go back and undo what we've done that wasn't right? Because you're going to have some kids that mess it up, and there's no way to fix that if they don't know how to undo it. So teach them how to do that first. Spend time doing that. That's that front loading piece where it's going to take a little bit more time, but then you're going to find it's just going to get that much better because they know how to do all these things. My language schedule. So I have a message slide that I use, like a morning message, like, would you rather do this or that? Would you like to be invisible, or would you like to fly? So they have to come on time to be able to use it. And if they're not on time on the meet after lunch, then they don't get to use it. Then we have about 20 minutes of silent reading, 5 to 10 minutes of my spiral language, and 20 to 30 minutes working on the guided reading tasks. And I'll show you those in a minute. And then 30 minutes roughly about using like a mini writing lesson and then having them go complete a writing task. If we have any remaining time, and often we don't just with preps and how the day is interrupted, but if we have any remaining time, that's when I do a read aloud. And I've done it two ways. I've actually read to them live, or I've recorded it at night, and then I have a task for them to do in Google Classroom. Either one is fine. So these are my language bell ringers. They know when they come back after lunch, they start with the message slide, and then they do silent reading until I tell them to move on and do the spiral language. As they're doing their silent reading and their message slide and maybe even their spiral language, on Monday, I'm pulling them and I'm reading with them. I'm pulling groups into breakout rooms to read the once a week reading article. So I have these reading articles. They are both in PDFs and in Google Slides. So kids can use Google Read and Write to access them if they can't read at the same level that everybody else can. And then they have questions that are attached to them. So there's a page of questions. Sometimes it's one question. Sometimes it's highlighting important ideas. It really depends on the day. And what I have them do is every day after Monday, they go back and do a page. So there's 5 pages for every week. This means that they're reading the same article for 5 days, so they get more out of it. But it's also really great for me because it means that Monday is busy because I have to pull them all to read in their groups. But then after Monday, I'm just checking in with kids. I'm seeing how their work is going. I'm giving them feedback. I'm conferencing with them on their work on the reading activities, so the questions that go with these articles. And that way, kids are able to improve their work, and then they can go ahead and finish those. So going back to my schedule, that means that in that 20 to 30 minutes of working on the guided reading task, they know every week that as soon as they finish their spiral language, they move right into those guided reading questions, and they go ahead and do them independently. They should not need my help on them. If you have a really weak class, you might want to go over some of the questions and read them to them and review it with them before they actually do it. And those are all my quick and easy tips for remote learning. I have more videos that are coming. If you want to see a specific topic or want to see how to do something that I've shown you, please by all means shoot me an email at sherry@mrsroom.com. Go to mrsroom.com and leave me a message or use the email on there. the contact, or I've got a Facebook group as well. So you're welcome to join any of those to ask a question or request to see a video.